Something has changed with Marvel. Something subtle at first, but now impossible to ignore. For the first time in over a decade, not a single MCU movie cracked the top 10 worldwide box office. To me, that is cultural momentum collapsing. And that's why Avengers Doomsday matters more than any Marvel movie since Endgame. Because this isn't just about one film. It's about whether Marvel can rebuild trust, and whether Marvel can restore momentum, and ultimately if Marvel can convince audiences to follow this universe into its next era. For years the MCU wasn't just successful, it shaped pop culture. People weren't just watching films, they were participating in events. The build up to Infinity War and Endgame was unlike anything else in cinema. A decade of careful setup, consistent storytelling, and characters people genuinely cared about. It created something special, a universe that felt alive. But after Endgame, something shifted. And at first it didn't seem like a problem. Marvel still had hype, it still had talent, and they still had fans willing to show up on day one. But underneath that hype, the foundation began to crack. Part of it was oversaturation, too many movies, too many shows, all too quickly to satisfy Disney+. But oversaturation isn't just about quantity, it's about lack of purpose. Marvel kept releasing content without giving people a reason to stay invested. And then came the Kang storyline. Or more accurately, the unravelling of the Kang storyline. What was supposed to be the backbone of the multiverse saga quietly dissolved. Marvel essentially had to slow down, reassess, and in some ways stall the universe. This has been very evident in Marvel Phase 5, which started with Quantumania, which was supposed to build interest in the overarching Kang storyline. Phase 5 ended with Thunderbolts and Captain America, two films which has all the references to the biggest storyline removed via extensive reshoots. When previous phases ended with a hint towards what was to come, these two didn't build on the universe in any meaningful way. And audiences could feel that pause. Movies and shows were coming out, but they didn't feel connected. They weren't building towards anything. There was no clear villain, no clear arc, and no clear future. And this is precisely when the MCU started losing momentum. Not because of superhero fatigue appeared suddenly out of nowhere, but because narrative momentum had disappeared. But the deeper issues wasn't just the pause, it was the storylines Marvel left behind along the way. Just a few examples include Secret Invasion, a storyline that in the comics reshapes the entire world order, but the MCU completely ignored it afterwards. No political fallout, no global paranoia, not even a passing mention. The Eternal Celestial, there is just some giant space gods sticking out the ocean, and the MCU treats it like a piece of trivia. It's only ever been briefly mentioned in Captain America. The Young Avengers setup, Kate Bishop, Ms. Marvel, America Chavez, characters fans, actually for the most part liked, have been introduced and left with no follow through. And let's not even get into Shang-Chi, whose film was very well received back in 2021, and the character has not even shown up in any other Marvel media. And lastly, there is Blade. A film that should have been a major tonal shift for the MCU, but has become a symbol of development chaos, rewrites, and directionlessness. And of course, Kang. The villain who was meant to define the next saga, removed so quietly that the universe has felt directionless ever since. When one storyline gets dropped, audiences are patient. But when multiple storylines vanish, when a whole saga's villain is erased, when setups lead nowhere, it sends a very clear message. The destination isn't worth caring about. And that is the moment audiences begin to check out. Not because they don't like superheroes or the MCU is dead, but because the universe stopped rewarding emotional investment. And you can see that reflected perfectly in the box office. After dominating for over 10 years, Marvel films have now dropped out of the top 10 worldwide entirely. Openings are getting smaller, word of mouth is getting weaker, and ultimately the cultural footprint shrank. Marvel wasn't failing, but it was fading, and that brings us to Avengers Doomsday. Unlike Infinity War and Endgame, this movie isn't arriving in a position of strength. It's arriving in a moment of uncertainty. A moment when the MCU doesn't have the benefit of the doubt anymore, when fans aren't automatically excited just because a project exists. But here's why Doomsday matters. Because it's the moment Marvel finally moves forward again. For the last few years, the MCU felt like a universe on pause, stuck between abandoned storylines, a disappearing villain arc, and no clear long-term plan. But Doomsday is the line in the sand. It's where Marvel chooses the direction of the rebooted MCU. Feige has already hinted that after Secret Wars, Marvel will rebuild the universe, being basically a soft reset. New actors, new continuities, and a fresh start. And that could honestly be a great thing. But a reboot only works if fans trust the universe again. People don't follow cinematic universes because they exist. They follow them because they believe in them. They care about the characters and they feel connected to the journey. Right now, Marvel has to earn that feeling back. And that's why Doomsday can't just be good. It can't just be successful, because it probably will make a lot of money. And that's not the challenge. The challenge is, will audiences walk out of Doomsday feeling excited about the MCU again? Will they feel like the universe has direction? Will they see characters they want to follow? And will they feel momentum, the thing the MCU has been missing for years? Because if Doomsday works, if it delivers emotional weight, real stakes, and a sense of purpose, Marvel can rebuild. They can restart the universe with confidence and create a new era that feels fresh but coherent. But if Doomsday doesn't land, if it feels disconnected, messy or hollow, then Marvel enters its reboot already weakened, already doubted, and already behind. I don't believe Marvel will die. I think it is too big to fail at this point. But it will shrink, it will lose its cultural influence and become something people watch casually instead of something people will follow passionately. And that's the real difference. Marvel doesn't just need viewers, it needs followers. People who care about the characters and invested in the journey, and who believe the universe is worth their time. That trust, that enthusiasm was the core of Marvel's success. And Avengers Doomsday is the film that determines whether Marvel can get it back. Because this movie won't decide whether Marvel continues, but it will decide whether Marvel still matters in the cultural landscape.